There are the reggae stars everyone knows, and then there are the stars that only the stars know. These are the underrated masters, the innovators who wrote the playbook for an entire genre. Their music changed the world, even if the world never learned their names. We're about to give them their due, starting with a man who turned his studio into a science lab. 1. King Tubby. Let's start our journey in a small recording studio in Kingston, Jamaica, in the late 1960s. This is the workshop of a man named Osborne Rudock, but the world would come to know him as King Tubby. He wasn't a singer or a musician in the traditional sense. He was a sound engineer, a technical wizard who saw the mixing board not just as a tool, but as an instrument. Back then, when a song was recorded, that was it. The recording was final. But King Tubby had a radical idea. He started taking the master tapes of existing reggae songs and began to deconstruct them. He would drop out the vocals, crank up the bass and drums, and drench the remaining sounds in massive amounts of echo and reverb. He was creating entirely new soundscapes from the bones of old songs. This new style of music was called dub, and King Tubby was its undisputed king. He was the first person to ever remix a song, an idea that would completely change the course of modern music. Every DJ who remixes a track and every electronic music producer who builds a song from samples owes a debt to King Tubby. He turned the recording studio into a creative playground and invented a whole new way to think about music. King Tubby created a whole new universe of sound by taking the singer out. But our next artist had a voice so iconic, it would define the sound of romance in reggae for decades. 2. Gregory Isaacs. After the raw energy of early reggae, the music began to evolve. It found a smoother, more soulful voice, and that voice belonged to a man named Gregory Isaacs. Nicknamed the Cool Ruler, Isaacs was the undisputed king of a subgenre called lovers rock. This was reggae's romantic side, and Isaacs was its master. He had a voice that was as smooth as silk, but was always tinged with a deep sense of melancholy and longing. He sang about love and heartbreak with a kind of effortless cool that no one has ever been able to duplicate. His biggest hit, Night Nurse, is a perfect example of his genius. It's a slow, smoldering track with a deep bass line and Isaacs's voice just floating over the top. He wasn't a powerful, booming singer. Instead, he had a subtle, almost conversational style that made you feel like he was whispering his secrets directly to you. He brought a new level of sophistication and emotional depth to the genre. While many reggae artists sang about politics and spirituality, Gregory Isaacs focused on the matters of the heart. He proved that reggae could be intimate, vulnerable, and incredibly romantic, paving the way for countless artists who followed. Gregory Isaacs gave reggae its romantic soul. Our next artist took a humble, almost toy-like instrument and turned it into one of the most spiritual and recognizable sounds in all of music. 3. Augustus Pablo. In the world of music, some instruments are considered serious, like the guitar or the piano. And then there's the melodica, a small, wind-powered keyboard that is often seen as a children's toy. But in the hands of a visionary named Horace Swaby, who took the stage name Augustus Pablo, that simple toy became a tool of profound spiritual expression. Augustus Pablo did for the melodica what Jimi Hendrix did for the electric guitar. He unlocked its hidden soul. In the early 1970s, Pablo began using the melodica as the lead instrument in his dub and reggae tracks. The sound was unlike anything anyone had ever heard before. It was haunting, mystical, and had an almost ancient quality to it. His instrumental tracks, like the legendary Java, created a new sound that became known as Far East Reggae. It was a sound that seemed to transport the listener to another time and place. He worked with all the great producers, including King Tubby, and his melodica became a signature sound of the golden age of dub. He proved that it didn't matter what instrument you played. What mattered was the feeling you put into it. Augustus Pablo took a simple instrument and used it to create some of the most deeply spiritual and influential music in reggae history. Augustus Pablo created a mystical sound with a simple instrument. But our next artist was a keyboard player whose funky grooves were the secret ingredient in countless reggae hits. 4. Jackie Mittoo. Behind every great band, there is often a quiet genius, a master musician who lays the foundation for everyone else. In the world of Jamaican music, that genius was Jackie Mittoo. He was a founding member of the legendary house band the Skatalites and was the musical director for the famous Studio One record label. To put it simply, Jackie Mittoo was the man who created the sound of ska, rocksteady, and early reggae. He was a keyboard virtuoso, and his fingers are on thousands of classic recordings. Mittoo had a style that was all his own. He blended American R&B and jazz with Jamaican folk rhythms to create a new, infectious sound. His organ and piano lines were the melodic heart of so many iconic tracks. He could create a funky, driving rhythm 1 minute and a soulful, emotional melody the next. He was the secret weapon of producers like Coxsone Dodd, the man behind Studio One. If you've ever heard a classic reggae song from the 60s or 70s and found yourself humming the keyboard part, you are probably humming a Jackie Mittoo melody. He was one of the most important and prolific musicians in Jamaican history, yet because he was almost always a session player and not a frontman, his name is largely unknown to the general public. Jackie Mittoo was the king of the keyboards. Our next artist was his boss, a legendary producer who turned his record studio into a hit factory, the Motown of Jamaica. 5. Coxsone Dodd. In the world of music, some producers are just as famous as the artists they record. Think of Phil Spector or Quincy Jones. In Jamaica, the most important name in music production was Clement Coxsone Dodd. In 1963, he opened the Jamaican Recording and Publishing Studio, better known as Studio One. This studio would become the epicenter of Jamaican music for the next 2 decades. It was, without a doubt, the Motown of reggae. Coxsone Dodd had an incredible ear for talent. He was the man who discovered Bob Marley and gave the Wailers their first recording contract. He discovered and produced almost every major star of the ska, rocksteady, and early reggae eras, including Jackie Mittoo, the Skatalites, and Alton Ellis. He was more than just a producer. He was a mentor and a tastemaker. He assembled the best session musicians in the country to be his house band and created a signature sound that was polished, professional, and incredibly soulful. The rhythms and melodies that were born in Studio One became the foundation for everything that came after. Coxsone Dodd didn't just record music. He built the entire industry from the ground up, and his influence on the sound and business of reggae is impossible to overstate. Coxsone Dodd built a reggae empire at Studio One, but he had a fierce rival, another legendary producer whose sound was a little rougher and tougher. 6. Duke Reid. If Coxsone Dodd's Studio One was the Motown of Jamaica, then Duke Reid's Treasure Isle studio was its Stax Records. While Dodd's sound was often smooth and soulful, Duke Reid specialized in a harder, tougher style of music that was perfect for the dance halls. Duke Reid was a larger-than-life character. He was a former police officer who was known to carry his firearms with him in the studio. He was an intimidating figure, but he was also a brilliant producer who created some of the most iconic records of the rocksteady era. Treasure Isle had its own legendary house band, led by the incredible saxophonist Tommy McCook. The sound was defined by its powerful driving bass lines and a more relaxed one-drop drum beat that became the foundation of modern reggae. Duke Reid produced classic hits for artists like Alton Ellis and the Paragons, whose song "The Tide is High" would later be a global hit for Blondie. He had a fierce rivalry with Coxsone Dodd, and the two producers would often try to outdo each other, a competition that pushed the music to new creative heights. Duke Reid's tough, dancehall-focused sound was a crucial part of reggae's evolution, providing the gritty counterpoint to Studio One's polished soul. Duke Reid ruled the dance halls with his tough sound. Our next artist was a singer who defined the rocksteady era with his incredibly smooth and soulful voice, earning him the title, the Godfather of Rocksteady. 7. Alton Ellis. Before reggae had its signature one-drop rhythm, there was rocksteady. It was a slower, more soulful, and incredibly romantic style of music that dominated Jamaica in the mid-60s. And the undisputed king of rocksteady was a singer named Alton Ellis. Often called the Godfather of Rocksteady, Ellis had a voice that could melt hearts. It was a powerful, soulful instrument that was heavily influenced by American R&B singers. Alton Ellis was one of the first true stars of Jamaican music. He recorded for both Coxsone Dodd and Duke Reid, and his songs were massive hits. Tracks like I'm Still in Love with You are timeless classics of romantic music. He brought a new level of professionalism and artistry to the vocal side of Jamaican music. But he wasn't just a singer of love songs. He also recorded some of the first socially conscious tracks, songs that spoke about the struggles of life in the ghettos of Kingston. His music was the perfect soundtrack for the era, a mix of romance and reality. The smooth, soulful sound of rocksteady was a crucial bridge between the fast energy of ska and the slower, heavier groove of reggae, and Alton Ellis was the man who built that bridge. Alton Ellis was the king of rocksteady. Our next group was the band that literally defined the sound of ska, the high-energy music that started it all. 8. The Skatalites. Before rocksteady and reggae, there was ska. It was the first truly original Jamaican popular music, a fast, energetic, and incredibly danceable style that combined Caribbean folk rhythms with American jazz and R&B. And the band that invented and perfected the sound of ska was the Skatalites. They were not just a band, they were a supergroup, a collection of the most talented musicians on the entire island. The Skatalites were the house band for Studio One, and their lineup was a who's who of Jamaican music legends, including Jackie Mittoo on keyboards, Tommy McCook on saxophone, and the virtuosic trombonist Don Drummond. They were masters of their instruments, and their instrumental ska tracks were a powerful fusion of complex jazz solos and infectious dance rhythms. They backed up every major singer of the era, from Bob Marley to Jimmy Cliff. The sound they created, with its walking bass lines and its signature offbeat guitar chop, became the blueprint for all Jamaican music that followed. Even though the original lineup of the band was only together for a little over a year, their influence is immeasurable. They are the founding fathers of the entire genre. The Skatalites were the founding fathers of ska. But our next artist was a singer whose raw, powerful voice and spiritual lyrics helped to define the sound of roots reggae in the 70s. 9. Burning Spear. As reggae moved into the 1970s, it became more than just dance music. It became a vehicle for deep spiritual and political messages rooted in the Rastafarian faith. This new, more serious style was called roots reggae, and one of its most powerful and authentic voices belonged to a man named Winston Rodney, better known as Burning Spear. He was not a singer of love songs or party anthems. His music was a form of spiritual meditation. Burning Spear's music is deep, hypnotic, and intensely spiritual. His lyrics are chants and prayers that speak of African history, social justice, and the teachings of Marcus Garvey. His voice is a unique and powerful instrument, a raw, emotional cry that sounds like it's coming from the ancient soul of Africa itself. His classic albums, like Marcus Garvey and Man in the Hills, are masterpieces of roots reggae. They feature deep, heavy bass lines, hypnotic drumming, and powerful horn sections. He was one of the first artists to bring a truly uncompromising and deeply spiritual Rastafarian message to a global audience. Burning Spear's music is not for casual listening. It's a deep and immersive experience that represents the spiritual heart of the genre. Burning Spear's music was a spiritual journey. Our next artist was another one of reggae's great spiritual teachers, a man whose distinctive, haunting voice is one of the most unique sounds in music history. 10. Horace Andy. In the world of reggae, some singers have voices that are instantly recognizable from the very first note. Horace Andy is one of those singers. He has a high, haunting, and almost fragile-sounding voice with a signature vibrato that sounds like nothing else on earth. It's a voice that is full of pain, longing, and deep spirituality. For over 50 years, he has been one of reggae's most consistent and beloved artists. Horace Andy started his career at Studio One in the late 60s and scored a huge hit with his song Skylarking. The song became an anthem for the disaffected youth of Jamaica. He went on to record countless classic tracks throughout the 70s, with his unique vocal style making him a favorite of dub producers like King Tubby. But what makes Horace Andy truly special is his longevity and his willingness to collaborate with new artists. In the 1990s, he became the guest vocalist for the groundbreaking British trip-hop group Massive Attack. His haunting voice on their songs, like Angel, introduced him to a whole new generation of fans and proved that his timeless sound could fit into any musical context. He is a true original, a vocalist whose one-of-a-kind voice has graced some of the best music of the last half-century. Horace Andy's haunting voice crossed genres. But our next artist was a woman whose powerful voice and trailblazing career made her the undisputed Queen of Reggae. 11. Marcia Griffiths. For a long time, the world of reggae was dominated by male artists. But Marcia Griffiths kicked the door down and proved that a woman could be just as powerful and successful. With a career spanning over 5 decades, she has earned the title Queen of Reggae. She is a true trailblazer, a versatile and talented vocalist who has recorded everything from soulful, rocksteady ballads to upbeat dance tracks. Marcia Griffiths started her career as a teenager at Studio One and had a string of hits in the rocksteady era. Her voice is a powerful and soulful instrument, capable of conveying both deep emotion and pure joy. She was also a member of the I-Threes, the trio of female vocalists who provided the beautiful and iconic backing vocals for Bob Marley and the Wailers during the height of their international fame. But she is probably best known for her solo hit, The Electric Boogie, which spawned the worldwide dance craze, the Electric Slide. While the song is a light and fun pop dance track, it's a testament to her incredible versatility and her ability to connect with a massive audience. Marcia Griffiths is a true legend, a pioneering woman who has done it all in the world of reggae music. Marcia Griffiths became the Queen of Reggae. Our next artist is another pioneering woman whose biggest song became a global anthem for hip-hop, even though she barely got any credit for it for years. 12. Sister Nancy. In the early 1980s, the sound of reggae was changing again. A new, more aggressive and stripped-down style called dancehall was taking over. This was a male-dominated world, but a young woman named Sister Nancy emerged as one of its most unique and powerful voices. She was one of the first female DJs, a term for the vocalists who toast or rap over the instrumental tracks. And she created a song that would become one of the most sampled and influential tracks in music history. That song is Bam Bam. Released in 1982, the track features Sister Nancy's incredible, high-pitched vocal style over a classic reggae rhythm. The song wasn't a huge hit at the time, but in the decades that followed, it took on a life of its own. Its infectious melody and Sister Nancy's confident delivery made it a favorite of hip-hop and electronic music producers. It has been sampled in hundreds of songs by artists like Kanye West and Jay-Z, becoming a universal anthem of female empowerment. The thing is, for over 30 years, Sister Nancy never received any royalties for her masterpiece. It was a classic story of an artist being taken advantage of by the music industry. Thankfully, she eventually won the rights to her own music, finally getting the credit and compensation she deserved for creating one of the most iconic songs of all time. Sister Nancy's voice became a hip-hop staple. Our next artist had a revolutionary vocal style that was so unique and bizarre, it sounded like he was from another planet. 13. Eka Mouse. In the world of dancehall, there have been many great vocalists, but there has only ever been one Ika Mouse. Born Ripton Hylton, he created a vocal style that was so strange, so original, and so completely out there that it defied all description. It was called sing-jaying, a combination of singing and DJing, but his version was on a whole other level. He used a bizarre, nasal, and highly melodic style that was full of clicks, pops, and strange sounds. It was a vocal style that was both comedic and incredibly skillful. Ika Mouse burst onto the scene in the early 80s and became a huge star in the dancehall world. His songs were often about strange and humorous topics, with titles like Wa Do Dem. He had a larger-than-life stage presence and a unique fashion sense to match his unique voice. While some might have seen him as a novelty act, he was a true original who pushed the boundaries of what a reggae vocalist could be. He proved that you didn't have to have a traditionally good voice to be a star. You just had to have a style that was all your own. Ika Mouse is one of the true eccentrics of Jamaican music, an artist who was not afraid to be completely and utterly himself. Ika Mouse had a bizarre and unique style. Our next artist was another dancehall pioneer who, in his short life, created a vocal melody that would become one of the most copied in music history. 14. Tenor Saw. The world of music is full of tragic stories of artists who left us too soon, leaving behind a small but incredibly influential body of work. In the world of dancehall, that artist is Tenor Saw. He passed away at the young age of 21, but not before he recorded a song that would change the sound of dancehall and hip-hop forever. That song was Ring the Alarm. Released in 1985, Ring the Alarm was built on a new, revolutionary digital rhythm called the Stalag rhythm. But what made the song a timeless classic was Tenor Saw's incredible vocal performance. He had a powerful, soulful voice and a unique melodic sensibility. The vocal melody he created for Ring the Alarm was so catchy and so iconic that it has been copied, sampled, and referenced in hundreds of other songs. It's one of the most famous melodies in all of dancehall music. Tenor Saw's career was tragically short, but his one massive hit had an influence that is still being felt today. He was a vocal innovator whose raw talent and incredible ear for melody left a permanent mark on the genre. Tenor Saw's one-hit melody echoed for decades. Our next artist was a singer who was known for his incredible live performances and his ability to get any crowd on its feet. 15. Barrington Levy. In the dancehall era of the 80s, many artists relied on pre-recorded instrumental tracks, or riddims, but Barrington Levy was different. He was a powerhouse vocalist who always sounded best with a live band behind him. He had a unique, high-pitched voice and a signature do-do-do scatting style that made his songs instantly recognizable. He was, and still is, one of the greatest live performers in the history of reggae. Barrington Levy has a huge catalog of hits, including the international smash Here I Come, broader than Broadway. His music is a perfect blend of dancehall energy and roots reggae soul. He could write a tough digital rhythm 1 minute and then deliver a heartfelt, soulful ballad the next. His voice is a powerful and versatile instrument, and his live shows are legendary for their high energy and his incredible ability to connect with the audience. In an era that was becoming increasingly digital, Barrington Levy was a reminder of the power of a great singer and a great live band. He is a true master of his craft, an artist who has stayed relevant for decades by simply being one of the best singers in the business. Barrington Levy was a master of the live show. Our next artist was a singer whose smooth voice earned him the nickname the Crown Prince of Reggae. 16. Dennis Brown.
Love and hate can
Bob Marley may have been the king of reggae, but for many Jamaicans, Dennis Brown was the Crown Prince. He was a child prodigy who started his recording career at the age of 11, and he went on to become one of the most beloved and prolific artists in the history of the genre. He recorded over 75 albums in his career, and his smooth, soulful voice was one of the most beautiful instruments in all of music. Dennis Brown had a voice that was pure emotion. It was warm, powerful, and incredibly expressive. He could sing a love song with a heart-wrenching vulnerability, and then turn around and deliver a powerful song of social justice with an undeniable conviction. He was a master of both romantic lovers rock and conscious roots reggae. Bob Marley himself cited Dennis Brown as his favorite singer, a testament to the immense respect he commanded from his peers. Songs like Here I Come and Promised Land are masterpieces of the genre, showcasing his incredible vocal talent and his ability to connect with the listener on a deep, emotional level. He was a true legend whose music has touched the hearts of millions. Dennis Brown was the crown prince. Our next artist was a producer who took the dub experiments of King Tubby and pushed them into a strange, psychedelic, and brilliant new direction. 17. Lee Scratch Perry. If King Tubby was the scientist of dub, then Lee Scratch Perry was its mad genius. He is one of the most creative, eccentric, and influential producers in the history of music, a true visionary who treated the recording studio like a mystical laboratory. His production techniques were bizarre and unconventional. He was known to bury microphones under trees to get a strange sound, or blow smoke onto the master tapes to bless them with a spiritual energy. Lee Perry started his career as an apprentice to Coxsone Dodd at Studio One, but his wild ideas were too much for the mainstream. So, he built his own studio in his backyard, the legendary Black Ark. It was here, in the 1970s, that he created his masterpieces. He produced some of the best work of Bob Marley and the Wailers, including the classic Punky Reggae Party. His own productions were dense, layered, and psychedelic soundscapes. He used strange sound effects, snippets of movie dialogue, and a heavy, swirling mix of echo and reverb to create a sound that was truly his own. He pushed the boundaries of what a record could be, and his experimental approach has influenced everyone from The Clash to the Beastie Boys. Lee Perry was the mad genius of the studio. But our next entry is another brilliant producer who was his protege, a man who took the sounds of dub into the digital age. 18. Scientist. In the late 70s, a young man named Hopton Brown walked into King Tubby's studio and asked for a job. He was a quiet and nerdy kid who was obsessed with electronics. King Tubby saw his potential and took him on as his apprentice. That young man would soon take on the name Scientist and become one of the most important producers of the next generation of dub music. Scientist took the techniques he learned from his master and applied them to the new sounds of the early dancehall era. His dub mixes were cleaner, more aggressive, and had a kind of futuristic, sci-fi feel. His album covers often featured him as a cartoon character, battling space monsters and aliens with the power of his mixing board. He was a master of creating dramatic soundscapes, with sounds dropping in and out of the mix in a way that told a story. He was incredibly prolific, mixing dozens of classic albums in the early 80s. Scientist was the perfect link between the old-school analog world of King Tubby and the new digital world that was just around the corner. Scientist brought dub into the future. Our next group was a vocal trio whose perfect, church-like harmonies made them one of the most respected groups in roots reggae. 19. The Abyssinians. In roots reggae, the message is just as important as the music, and few groups delivered a more powerful spiritual message than the Abyssinians. They were a vocal trio whose music was deeply rooted in the Rastafarian faith. Their signature sound was built on their incredible, tight, three-part harmonies. It was a sound that was inspired by the church choirs of their youth, and it gave their music a feeling of deep reverence and spirituality. Their most famous song, Sata Masagana, is considered one of the great anthems of reggae music. The title is in the ancient Ethiopian language of Amharic and translates to "Give Praise." The song's melody is based on an old Ethiopian church hymn, and its lyrics are a prayer for repatriation to Africa. The song was so important and so deeply spiritual that it became known as the unofficial national anthem of the Rastafarian movement. The Abyssinians never achieved massive commercial success, but their influence on the spiritual side of reggae is immense. They were true musical purists who created a timeless body of work that is still revered by fans of conscious music all over the world. The Abyssinians created the ultimate spiritual anthem. Our final artist is a DJ who was not only a vocal innovator, but also the man who brought a new level of swagger and style to the dancehall. 20. Yellow Man. By the early 1980s, dancehall had become the dominant sound in Jamaica. It was a tougher, more streetwise style of music, and its first superstar was a man named Winston Foster, better known as King Yellow Man. Yellow Man was an unlikely star. He was an albino, which in Jamaica at the time often led to social ostracization. But he overcame this prejudice with his incredible talent, his sharp wit, and his undeniable charisma. Yellow Man was one of the most popular DJs of the early 80s. He had a smooth, melodic flow and a gift for clever, often humorous, and boastful lyrics. He was the king of what was called slackness, a style of DJing that was full of double entendres and playful bravado. He was also a fashion icon, known for his flashy suits and his confident stage presence. He was the first dancehall artist to sign a major American record deal, and his success helped to bring the raw energy of the Jamaican dancehall to a global audience. Yellow Man was a true trailblazer, an artist who proved that talent and charisma could overcome any obstacle, and in the process, he became the first king of the modern dancehall era.